Hi friends! Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Nettie and today's video will be all about baking. I will be making sourdough buns. Some of you have asked for a video of how I do sourdough buns, and today's video will be all about that. And right now it is 1:40 p.m. afternoon, and I'll be feeding my sourdough starter right now, and then later on in the evening, 8:30, 9 or 9:30, depends on when we go to bed, I'll be making the dough and let it sit overnight, and then tomorrow morning I will be making the buns. So I'll show you all of that. And yeah, right now I have my starter on the counter, just letting it get to room temperature. I usually have it in the fridge, like when I'm storing it. And yeah, right now I have it on the counter, and I'll be feeding it right now, so it will be nice and active for later on in the evening when I'll be using it. So let's get on to feeding the starter. So this is my starter. This is how I have been storing it for the last couple of weeks. Usually I store it in a nice jar, you know. I cleaned out my jar, so that's why I have it in this kind of measuring cup. I just have plastic wrap over here, and then I poked some holes in there so it's breathable, you know. So right now this is about half a cup, and that is not quite enough for my dough. That I usually do 1 cup of starter for my dough. So when I'm feeding my sourdough starter, I will add 1 cup of flour and about 1 cup of purified filtered water. You don't want to use tap water because that could kill the bacteria in this sourdough starter. I add about 1 cup of water depending on how thick my starter is. I like to have it a little thick, although it doesn't really matter how much water you add, just about the equal amounts of flour and water, and then that should be fine. You can also make your own sourdough starter. I have tried that a few years ago, but I didn't have any luck with it. This starter I got from a friend of mine. She was so kind and willing to share with me. I've had this starter for a couple of months already, and I have really enjoyed using it and experimenting with it. You can make all kinds of sweetness with sourdough. You can make buns like I'm doing today. You can make cinnamon rolls, which I have already done. Donuts, which I've also tried. If you are using sourdough, let me know in the comments what you are using it for and how you like it. Right now I'm stirring it very nicely to make sure there are no lumps in the starter. One thing you want to make sure you don't use any stainless steel. I like to store it in a glass container and use wooden spoons to stir it. Stainless steel can also kill the wild bacteria. Once I'm done stirring it, I'll just cover it with plastic wrap, make sure it has some holes in it so it can breathe. Just quickly wanted to come on here and show you guys how my sourdough starter is looking right now. It has been like 4 hours since I've fed it, and you can see it is now up till here, so it's almost till the top, and earlier it was maybe like till here, maybe half, maybe not quite half, but it has like doubled quite a bit, you know. And you see all those bubbles on top? That is a really good sign. That's what you want to get with sourdough starter. Alright, it's time to make the dough. I like to use 1 cup of sourdough starter. If your dough is bigger than mine, you'll want to use more starter than I do. I'll also have the recipe in the description box, so go check it out if you want to try it. Yes, I'm using a plastic bowl. I don't have any wooden or glass bowls that are big enough. I like to add 3/4 cup of oil. You can use any oil. I like to use olive oil. Next, I add about 2 cups of warm milk and 1 cup of warm water. I already measured this beforehand. And here it stopped filming. I like to add about 2 cups of whole wheat flour. I also add some sugar, some salt, and a teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda helps that the buns don't taste so sour from the sourdough. And then the rest I'll just use unbleached all-purpose flour. When using sourdough starter, you don't need to add yeast. The sourdough starter will act like a yeast. From my experience, sourdough stays softer than any regular dough from yeast. So I like to add extra flour even though it already seems like the dough is hard enough. Although you don't want the dough to be very hard, neither do you want it to be very soft. otherwise you would get very flat buns. I like to give it a coat of oil on top and then cover it with plastic or plastic wrap and then a towel and then let it sit in the oven overnight. The dough has risen and has been sitting for 10 hours in the oven, and it's time to make some buns. I like to sprinkle my table with some flour so that the dough doesn't stick to the table, and to have some oil beside for my hands for when the dough is sticky. I like to cut out pieces just enough for one baking sheet, and then I will roll the buns and place the baking sheet with the buns in the oven to rest and rise. Alright, I am back. It is now 1:45 p.m. So I think the buns will be ready to bake. They have risen, or I let them sit for about almost 7 hours. It kind of depends on how big I want them, so I think they're good for today. So let's go check on them. This is how my buns look right now. You can see they're kind of touching already. I always try that they not do that, kind of like these are, not touching, but don't always have that kind of luck. So I think it is time to check on my buns again. I like to switch them up and down so that they kind of bake evenly, you know, like all around. So that's what we'll be doing now. Let's go check it out. Ooh, yeah, this looks good. Almost done. Also, sometimes I turn them around. Just, you know, turn them around. Like this one. There, all set. A few more minutes. Let's go check on the buns. I think they will be done. Ooh la la, they look good. That's kind of a view of the buns when they're done. That is more natural lighting, and this looks way too shiny. It's because of the light over here. This is how it looks when it is out. A few hours of cooling down, they are ready to freeze. Alright guys, I think that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this video, tap the like button, subscribe if you're not already. I'd love for you to stick around. And if you have any questions about the sourdough or the buns or anything, or any video suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye!